little more than a year since I last looked at the Fairly Oddparents, and in that time the show has managed to become worse. Chloe is now a complete Mary Sue, and the writers no longer attempt to give her shortcomings, the writing is still scattered and hardly ever funny, the show's animation has been downgraded to Flash, making it even harder to watch, and the writers don't even care about the show's rules anymore. Nowadays, the Fairly Oddparents believes that it can get by playing things as safe as possible. Wait a minute, go back to that last clip. So here the government agents are blocking the only entrance to the classroom, and now they exit through the same entrance in the next shot. Man, I can't even watch this show casually without finding something wrong with it. But as I was saying, nowadays the Fairly Oddparents believes that it can get by playing things as safe as possible. But when your show has such a strong legacy, having that mindset is kind of offensive to longtime viewers. Before season 9, the Fairly Oddparents took a lot of risks. Even in seasons 6 through 8, it attempted to do things that it had never done before. In fact, probably the biggest thing that the series has ever done came out of this era. Wishology was either the Fairly Oddparents' season 6 finale or season 7 premiere, and it consisted of a trilogy of hour-long specials that together formed one long story. It's an almost 2.5-hour movie, or 3-episode miniseries, and despite that, no one online has talked about it. But today, I'm going to be discussing the first of these specials in a 3-part review series. Since each of these episodes stand on their own for the most part, I'll be covering one part of the special at a time. I remember liking Wishology when I was younger. I even owned it on DVD. It's probably one of the worst DVDs in my collection though. The cover is nice, but the menus are bland and it shrinks the high-definition episodes into standard definition and does not do the visuals of the special justice. It looks so bad that the TV rips that I downloaded off of the internet with the Nickelodeon logo actually look better than the official release I paid $20 for on Amazon. But shoddy Amazon products aside, knowing that the show was kind of a mixed bag when this episode came out, let's see if part 1 of Wishology, The Big Beginning, is exactly what you wished for, or if it deserves to be eliminated. This special makes a great first impression by ripping off a previous special. Remember how Abracatastrophe opened with a couple of movie parodies? Well, they did it again. Except this time they parodied movie trilogies like The Matrix, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. You know, that movie series with 8 films in it. The parodies here are not nearly as funny as the ones from Abracatastrophe. Not only were some of these trilogies dated even when the episode came out, but a lot of the jokes here are very specific references to the films, although you could say the same thing about Abracatastrophe's intro too. That episode also tied its intro into the main plot in a much better way, by foreshadowing the episode's recurring theme of Timmy losing his fairies. Wishology's intro sets up the theme of trilogies, which was obvious from one glance at the episode's title. And speaking of Abracatastrophe, there's also this.
I've had weirder mornings. No, not that one.
I hate to linger on what's just a quick gag, but this quick gag creates some questions pertaining to both the episode's story and production. Firstly, if the creators referenced that special, then why didn't they realize that the beginning was ripping that episode off? I guess they might have seen it as a homage, but I think it's just a little bit too similar to be that. Secondly, while this was probably just meant to be a joke, why didn't Timmy use the magic muffin to solve the mess he's about to get into, or at least hold on to it? It would have been a cheap way to resolve the story, but at least it doesn't create a giant plot hole, and it's a better solution to this conflict than a fart is. Trust me, I'll get to that soon. From the moment it begins, one of the biggest problems in this special is its overuse of CGI. While sometimes it's blended in fairly well with the traditional animation, other times it can stick out like a sore thumb. In these episodes, it's almost overused to the point of annoyance, as lots of vehicles, characters, and even the cool new intro also use the technology. Some of the other Fairly Oddparents specials had this problem too, but it's at its worst here. It's obvious that these episodes had a much bigger budget than the rest of the series, but the creators didn't need to constantly rub it into people's faces. But on the other side of the coin, the traditional animation used here is fantastic. Everything is very colorful and detailed, and the lighting can be very cinematic at times. I think that it's the best animation the show has ever had, even though it was produced 8 years ago. Going back to the plot, during Timmy's third trilogy wish at the start, head fairy Jordan Von Strangle appears to stop the wish, poof Timmy's fairies to somewhere else, removes everyone's memory of Timmy, and tells Timmy not to say his name. Why did Jorgen do all of this? Well, through a nice piece of fairy lore that I really enjoy, we learn that an ancient evil called the Darkness has returned after the fairies defeated it thousands of years ago. It is prophesied that only one hero can defeat the darkness and its minions, the Eliminators. Jorgen believes that hero to be Timmy Turner, so now it's up to Timmy to stop the darkness and save the universe without the assistance of any fairies. Having Timmy on a solo adventure is something that we rarely see on the show, especially for most of the episode. Timmy has to find the mystical white wand in order to stop the darkness and keep the government agency Murph off of his tail. The military extraterrestrial research facility is made up of just two arrogant agents that are both voiced by Patrick Warburton. You may remember him as the guy who screams and points in the trailer for the B-movie. Even though they both don't have many funny lines, his performance manages to make them both kind of funny characters. And despite the Eliminators being a legitimate threat, most of the special doesn't take itself very seriously. However, I think that the tone is still handled well here, as it can be both silly and intense. This leads to a lot of good humor and interesting villains in the Eliminators. In part 1, these guys don't have much of a personality, but I like that. Their blankness and need to complete their mission makes them pretty intimidating antagonists. I do feel that the few moments of silliness that they do have slightly diminish the impact of their characters. But these moments that they do have are brief and fit the tone present in the rest of the episode, so I don't mind them all that much. I also really like their designs. While they are completely CGI models, they blend in pretty well with everything else, and their bulking look complements their personality well. Part 1 of Wishology also features what might be one of the strangest subplots of the entire series. In order to protect them, Jorgen transforms all of the fairies in the universe into gumballs and puts them into a giant gumball machine. I didn't find this subplot to be anything other than just bizarre. There were hardly any attempts for humor here, and most of the jokes were just gross out or fart jokes, some of which actually became a plot point later on. Thanks for creating a very stupid resolution, Wishology, and not only using it once, but twice. I'm glad you understand what good humor is. There's a lot of jokes and plots to suck in, no pun intended, and the episode moves at a pretty consistent speed. There are also some great action sequences here too. The two chase sequences with Timmy, Jorgen, and the Eliminators are especially fun to watch. Many of the elements in the episode come together quite well, as all of the characters, and Timmy's parents and Mr. Crocker, come together for the final battle at the Middle-Aged Rock Festival, or MARF. A rock festival is a pretty odd place to set a finale, but the real reason it appears is so that the creators can make a lot of old people jokes and also include the weird but cool celebrity cameo of Kiss. Yes, this was foreshadowed and heavily advertised, but the idea is still very out of left field. However, I do enjoy what was done with Kiss here. They serve a purpose to the story, as they act as the guardians of the White Wand, and the episode pokes fun at the band, like with their instruments turning into weapons, or making jokes about their weird makeup. They even got the rights to use I Wanna Rock and Roll All Night, which is a nice touch, since outside of adult cartoons and regular show, I hardly ever see licensed songs being used in cartoons. Kiss's appearance in this episode doesn't feel like an advertisement for the band. It feels like the Fairly OddParents crew were genuinely big fans of the band, and I appreciate that. Plus, I'm sure that the target audience probably didn't even know what Kiss was. To wrap this summary up, the darkness is predictably defeated through the power of music, and with the help of farting gum-shaped fairies. There's also this moment where one member of Kiss breathes fire, because he can do that. And then the Eliminators shrink into an army of tiny Eliminators, because they can do that. And then in the next shot, they are back to normal size, because they can do that. And then the episode gives me a headache, cause man can it do that. The ending is very random, but the moments afterwards with the darkness releasing the universe from its grasp and retrieving the Eliminators is pretty satisfying. In the final moments of the episode, all of the anti-fairies celebrate Timmy's victory, until a man who looks a lot like Timmy named Turbo Thunder appears. He's come to stop the darkness, but is a little late to the party. Again, no pun intended. Turbo Thunder is voiced by Brendan Fraser, whose guest appearance is nowhere as cool as Kiss's was. Turbo Thunder looks a lot like the man in the Chosen One prophecy that Jorgen showed Timmy, but who cares about that? Everything is back to normal and the universe is at peace once more, right? Oh no, it's not over yet! What will happen next? And that was part 1 of Wishology, or The Big Beginning. I feel that it did earn its title, since it started off this trilogy with a bang. Okay, the opening sequence of the episode was just alright, but after that, this was a pretty thrilling and fun adventure. It had some good world building, a somewhat intense and epic story, and it left a lot more than I thought I would. However, some gags and entire subplots just made me groan, the use of CGI got on my nerves, and Kiss really did not need to be here, even if I did enjoy their appearance. But for an episode from Season 6, Wishology is starting out surprisingly good. If some parts were expanded upon and the ending didn't have to force in elements that foreshadow the upcoming parts, The Big Beginning could have stood out well on its own. Maybe the next 2 parts will expand upon it and help make it something special. Or maybe it'll make Season 10 look good. This episode did seem pretty proud of its fart jokes, so I think that anything is possible. And that ends today's video. But before you go, I have a few updates that I quickly want to mention. You may know that I recently started up a podcast with fellow YouTubers Noah David and Avis Reviews called Animation Obsession. It's been really fun to make and I highly recommend you check it out. In the first episode, we talked about the Rick and Morty Season 3 premiere and our history with SpongeBob SquarePants, among other things. A link to the podcast playlist will be on screen now, and stay tuned for more episodes in the upcoming weeks. I also recently started a Discord page. Here you can chat with me and many others about cartoons, my channel, the podcast, and there may be a video update or two. Be sure to follow me there and on Twitter to stay up to date with what I'm doing. I'm Nintendo, and I'll see you all next week.
Now to stop the ultimate evil, he may need to make the ultimate sacrifice.
What does it want?
I think it wants me!
Will this be the end of Timmy Turner forever?
Timmy!
Don't miss part 2 of the 3-night Fairly Odd movie event. The exciting middle part premieres tonight at 8. All part of Wishology Weekend on Nick.